What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 338.1, our Laguna Seca qualifying roundup, and our race preview for Sunday with Elijah Poe. Elijah and I will be back Sunday evening, probably with some other guests, to recap and react to the IndyCar race at Leguna Seca, and midweek, join Elijah and myself for the IndyCar report.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, IndyCar fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report and our qualifying recap for Laguna Seca and our race preview here with Elijah Poe. Welcome, Elijah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. Always love seeing IndyCar run on Laguna Seca. It's such a great track and gives IndyCar fans some of the best scenes I think they can see all year. And excited to see this race tomorrow with Alex Palou starting on pole for the fifth time this season.
And if you look at the first few rows, if you went back to the beginning of the season, you'd say those are going to be the drivers contending for the championship. So to have Alex Palou, Pato O'Ward, Colton Herta, Joseph Newgarden, the first four, shouldn't surprise anybody.
No, really great result, specifically for Team Penske as a whole. Having Joseph Newgarden up in fourth place is his best starting position all the way back, and we got to go all the way back until St. Pete. So first race of the season, this is his best start. I mean, Will Power right behind him. That's big for Team Penske to have maybe somewhat of a rebound. But man, knowing their luck, they'll probably both collide on first lap tomorrow.
No kidding. I had no idea it had been since the first race of the season. That's crazy.
Yeah, Newgarden's just been on the struggle bus as a whole, and definitely needed this fourth place result. And to see it not on an oval is promising for Team Penske as a whole.
All right, I'm going to go over the qualifying results. Elijah, feel free to jump in at any time. First row, Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward. Not a surprise. What might have been a surprise is how much faster Palou was than everybody else.
Yeah, almost 3 full tenths up on Pato and 5 tenths on Colton Herta. He is just so good around Laguna Seca for his fifth pole of 2025 here. It's just incredible. And he is just so strong around this course. As one here before, I don't think he's finished outside of the podium in that Ganassi car as well in his career there. It's just incredible the things he's doing, and he's so rapid. And, there's quite a jump off from Herta to Newgarden, almost 7 tenths.
Yeah,
so that shows you how
absolutely.
fast O'Ward and Herta are as well.
Sure looks like a three-person race, but we're hearing a lot from drivers that they expect this to be a strategy race. We'll talk more about that when we preview the race coming up. Row 2, Colton Herta and Joseph Newgarden, as you mentioned. Row 3, Will Power and David Malukas. Great result for the Foyt team.
Yeah, very good result. And it just shows how strong David Malukas is as a whole. To get that AJ Foyt racing car into the Fast Six is very impressive. With Santino starting down in 20th, it just shows you how quick and how much pace he is able to pull out of that car.
And Arrow McLaren have 2 in the top 7. Christian Lundgaard will start in the inside of row 4 and right in to the inside of Graham Rahal. Another great result.
Yeah, really great result for RLL yet again. He's coming off a really strong finish at Toronto, and it'd be great to see RLL be able to compete again this weekend. And with how close they are in the point standings towards the end of the season, they're going to need any result they can get.
2 of the 3 in the top 9. We'll talk about Devlin DeFrancesco, I'm sure. Louis Foster is starting 9th inside of Marcus Ericsson. Good result for Meyer Shank there as well, because the 6th row is Christian Rasmussen and Felix Rosenquist, so 2 of the Meyer Shank cars in the top 12.
Yeah, and Rosenquist was tracking on looking like he was going to make that Fast Six as well, but on one of his laps had a little incident and spun and caused a yellow. And in an IndyCar, that forces your lap time to be deleted, which is unfortunate for Rosenquist because He has a great looking car this week for the
Yes.
Grateful Dead, the tie-dye scheme. But regardless, he'll be super strong in the race, just like he always is. And this Meyer Shank team is just really hitting their stride.
And his spin caused Christian Rasmussen to dump out of his run. So Rasmussen will start 11th and Rosenquist 12th. Nice result for the Carpenter team with Rasmussen, who's been really good this year.
Yeah, he has been. It's just second year in IndyCar, still really, really young, and he's had really great moments over the course of the whole season. But let's just see tomorrow if he's able to keep his nose clean. He's obviously very racy, pretty much everywhere the series goes. But if he's able to get that consistency down, he'll be a well-established driver in the series.
Armstrong and Rasmussen starting right next to each other. Those are two guys to keep an eye out for sure.
Yeah, that's great to see so much youth talent, especially with Louis Foster right ahead of him.
Right.
See really young drivers start to challenge some of the veteran drivers in the series.
And both Danes in the top 11, so there is a chance that we will have a Dane in victory lane. Row 7 is Scott McLaughlin and Kiffin Simpson from two power teams.
Yeah, not a horrible result for both cars. Obviously, just barely missing out on the fast 12. I mean, but regardless, they'd be pretty happy with how things ended. I would bet Kiffin Simpson coming off a great weekend at Toronto with his first podium in the series. Seeing that 14th isn't probably where he wants to be starting, but some good chance for points on the line tomorrow.
And a lot of good drivers behind him. Let's go through it. Row 8 is Marcus Ericsson and Nolan Siegel. Row 9, Renus VK and Kyle Kirkwood. Weird run for Kirkwood again. 2 weeks in a row, they kind of messed up on the strategy.
Yeah, it's a shame because he is a really, really quick driver. But the past few weeks, it just feels like he can't get anything to go his way. And, he was obviously in that quote unquote, I mean, we can kind of call it a championship battle with Below about a month ago, but it seems like everything's pretty much over for Kirkwood. It's pretty much over for everybody, but, Kirkwood as a whole is probably a shoe-in to be over. Starting down in 18th tomorrow isn't great for him.
Pato's really probably the only one thinking I can catch him. And even that's probably not true. Row 10 has a couple of good drivers, Scott Dixon and Santino Ferrucci.
Yeah, surprised to see Scott Dixon so far down in there, but he was in that Group 1 qualifying group who just really had a lot of strong drivers in it. And that seems to be a trend with IndyCar. You get these two groups for qualifying, and one of the groups is really, really, really good, and the other group is just, pretty solid. And just unfortunate the way things fell for him.
It does seem like that for sure. Well, Dixon's starting at the back, and they're saying it's going to be a strategy race, so I would keep an eye out for that guy for sure.
Would not be surprised.
Row 11, Jacob Abel and Alexander Rossi. Row 12 is Connor Daly and Callum Ilott, who look really fast. I thought for sure during the morning, I thought for sure during Friday's practice that Callum Ilott was going to be at least in the top 12. And then row 13 is Robert Schwartzman and Stingray Robb. And then by himself on the final row, Devlin DeFrancesco. And Elijah, I really don't want to pick on a guy, but when your teammates are both in the top 9 and you're 30th and you had a fast car on top of it, that's not good.
I'd be interested to see if they don't come out and say if anything is wrong with that car mechanically or technically wise, because looking at the timesheet here, his fastest lap is 5 seconds slower.
Right, but he was on a really fast lap when he spun, and
Yeah.
like he was on a lap that was going to take him to number 1. That's how good the Ray Hall cars were, and then he was never able to get back out there, and again, he did it to himself.
It really is unfortunate. And like you said, we hate to be picking on somebody, but we're really not. He's just not having the results needed, especially when you've got a rookie, Louis Foster and Graham Rahal up in 8th and 9th. That is a substantial drop off to be starting last because that car obviously has had pace for, the past couple weekends now. They were really strong at Toronto as well. And Devlin DeFrancesco was just pretty much nowhere. It'd be really hard for me to see him in this seat next year. I know he has a contract, but, at some point, RLL is going to want to see results over anything else.
And there are a couple of guys waiting in the wings who we know everybody in the paddock likes, like Pourchaire. So I would I would be hoping for some really good results in these last few races if I were Devlin DeFrancesco. He needs to save that seat for sure.
Yeah, he's going to need some good results. And, it's a shame you're not going to pick up good results starting down in 20. I mean, maybe he can maybe climb up to 15th. I think that would be an excellent day for him. But, with the drivers ahead of him too, it's going to be an uphill battle for sure.
Well, like we said, it is going to be a bit of a strategy race. I think there are going to be 3 or 4 different strategies. They're saying tires will not last on this track, and it may come down to taking a couple more pit stops rather than fewer, taking advantage of yellows, things like that. That said, would you still take Alex Palou against the field?
I would. He's just so good around Laguna Seca almost every single year. And I will say that strategy should be interesting because this is the first time IndyCars had the hybrid in their cars at Laguna Seca. So it's going to be interesting to see how race pace kind of evolves and how tires are going to last. But if there's a crew that knows strategy and knows how to get Alex Palou a win, it's that number 10 crew. And I would be pretty surprised to not see him in victory lane.
I think he'll probably be able to overcome any strategy like he did a couple of weeks ago when he won. He was on the wrong strategy and still found a way to win. And that's probably what we're looking at, even if he is on the wrong strategy. Although Pato's awfully fast, and his race cars have been faster than his qualifying cars most races.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Pato and Palou really, really battle for those first opening stints of laps if there's not a caution. And even if there is a caution, I'd love to see a restart between those two even more, just because I know it would be so fierce. Both are really aggressive drivers, but also both are very, very smart with where they place their car. And there's nothing more fans want to see than a great battle for first place, and having Palou and O'Ward up top kind of brings me back to Thermal when they fought earlier in the season. It's awesome, and I would love to see Award be able to hang around Palou for this race.
Yeah, having Palou, Award, Herta, and Newgarden in your top 4, and then Power, and then going down the field and looking at some of the drivers mid-pack, my one prediction is that this is going to be a fun race.
I would tend to agree, and I would also be very surprised if there were not a lot of cautions. 5 cautions last year, and I think 8 the year before. Obviously, this sand and gravel, if you're going off, it's going to ruin your race, and it's going to bring out a caution, which makes Laguna Seca so fun to watch because the strategy and the cautions, they're always in play. So it should be a chaotic one tomorrow, and seeing that top 5 is something every IndyCar fan would love to see.
All right, I'm going to have you pick your dark horse, and I would say you're not allowed to pick Scott Dixon, but you are allowed to pick Scott. From back in the pack, there are a lot of options who you expect to come forward. Who would you pick, a driver or two, Elijah?
Well, a dark horse, even though he is starting inside the top 10, it's going to be interesting to see what Christian Lundgaard can do from that 7th place starting
I
position.
love his chances.
Yeah, so do I. Obviously, he's got Pato to go off of as well, so Arrow McLaren can work both strategies to see what works best between them. And he's been so strong all season, just hasn't come up with a win, obviously, but not a lot of drivers have in 2025.
And down and lower in the pack, look, you got starting at 13th, McLaughlin from Penske, Simpson from Ganassi, Ericsson from Andretti. You got Kirkwood, who has been one of the best drivers all year. The legend Scott Dixon, Santino Ferrucci, Alexander Rossi. Who are a driver or two of those who you expect to see come forward?
I like Alexander Rossi. He had an unfortunate accident yesterday in practice, which might have ruined some confidence for today, but he's statistically been pretty strong around Laguna Seca, and his car is the title sponsor of the race for Java House Coffee. So maybe a little title sponsor momentum because he's obviously going to want a good result with how much money they spent to sponsor that race.
It is a really big race on Sunday for Team Penske, isn't it, Elijah?
It is. Team Penske's been waiting for that result all season. It just hasn't come to them. They've got obviously Newgarden in 4th and Power in 5th. Pretty good odds that they're going to be able to challenge for at least a podium. And maybe for a win, you never really know. But no matter what, I think both drivers are going to try to keep their nose somewhat clean because as great as a win would be for Team Penske, I think right now they just need results. And having a podium and having 2 drivers in the top 5 at the end of the day would be a fantastic result for this team.
Before we go, Elijah, I just want to point out one thing. There are 27 cars in this field. 22 of them were in the 109 range in qualifying.
It just shows you how competitive IndyCar is right now. It just does.
Right.
It's unreal.
And DeFrancesco would have been as well if he had not spun. He and Stingray Robb were in the 109s, and Palou, Ward, and Herta were in the 108s. Everybody else was in the 109s.
It's just hilarious to see how close IndyCar is right now. You know, there are other racing series that are close, but to have top to bottom so many drivers within a second and a half over a course that is over, I think, a couple miles long is just something that is just unreal to think of. Unreal to see how many drivers are competitive.
And as competitive as it has been, Alex Palou and Pato Ward have found a way to set themselves apart.
Yeah, they have, and no better than both are in the, I guess you can call it a championship battle, even though statistically Palou can wrap it up next week in Portland. But no matter what, these 2 drivers are the best in the series right now, and IndyCar fans and myself, I'm absolutely thrilled to see Palou and O'Ward be up top for tomorrow. I think it's what everybody wants.
And Sunday, of course, is round 14 of the IndyCar season, round 14 of 18. And at least 12 of the 13 so far have been great races, so very much looking forward to Leguna Seca, a great track for IndyCar racing. Thanks so much to Elijah. Always appreciate it. And thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast with the IndyCar fan in your life to help spread the word about the Central Indiana Sports Report. We're here talking about IndyCar, and we're here talking Central Indiana sports every single day. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.